In today's video, I'm going to show you the major difference between an e-commerce brand that actually scales to $3 to $5 to $10,000 per day in sales compared to brands that actually make it past $100,000 per day in a single day. Both, perhaps we can debate, same product, same saturated market. Okay, I'm going to break down the major differences. Before we get further into the video, if you are a new viewer, this is just one of our own clients, just so you understand the type of caliber of clients that we're typically used to working with. In September 1st, they did over $100,000 in sales. Once again, just so you understand the type of data that we have access to on a daily basis, okay? That's it. Now that we got the proof out of the way, let's just jump right into the video. The first thing that I am going to do, just to make this video quite clear and easy to follow, is I'm going to break down typically what brands that do 3 to 10, sometimes even $15,000 per day in sales do, okay? This is just a list. Bear with me. There's probably a bigger list, but I just want to focus on the major things that I want to talk about in this video. So first thing, they copy and paste ads directly from competitors, okay? That's something, first of all, you shouldn't do. Second of all, you're relying on literally their database. And so why would you consider being able to scale if you're purely reliant on what they do? Second thing, they target a very broad, but most importantly, unclear avatar customer, meaning that it's not very clear what type of person and pain point and desire this person that they're targeting is. And so the targeting is very broad. I'm going to explain why that is actually kind of hard and expensive in just a second. And also, three, their sales process is it's very product centered. They don't really talk about problems, desires, pain points. Their funnel is also very simple, but it's very product centered. And because it's very product centered, they only basically go and target people that are product aware or perhaps solution aware, but mostly product aware, okay, or most aware, which is a very small portion of the market, which isn't scalable. And their ad costs, because of a bunch of different reasons, which we can dive deeper into, is very high, typically either with high CPMs or high CPMs and low CTRs, proceeding and giving end result, meaning a high cost per click. So if you have a very high cost per click, of course, it's hard to scale. So this process, as I write over here, can get some results. Don't get me wrong. It can get results. I've seen it with my own eyes, but it's very hard to scale because there's no innovation and understanding of what makes customers buy, the site psychology of why the buying triggers, understanding buying triggers of why people actually buy and proceed with the purchase, and there's no feedback loops, and everything is centered towards just copying and pasting. Now, on the other hand, I want to go over exactly how brands are able to scale past $100,000 days, okay? So there's pretty much two things that I've learned over the last 6 to 7 years of doing this. There's two ways to get to 8 figures. Number one, you have a very revolutionary product, and so even if your funnel is so-and-so, even if your marketing is so-and-so, the product does the selling for you just because it's unique. It's extremely unique. It's different. It's better. It is perceived as a better product. It has more features, more benefits, whatever. And so the product does the selling for you, and it's easier to scale this way. Now, of course, this is a harder route to get into. I'm not going to talk about that. But the other route is that you don't have a very revolutionary product, but your marketing is really, 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 really smart. Okay. And so if you have both, guess what? You probably are going to get to 9 figures, right? But I'm just assuming for the sake of this video that you are in this category of people. You don't really have a revolutionary product. Maybe your product is has a slight formulation or a slight add-on or whatever, but your marketing is what you need, right? So how can we be smart, as I say here, with marketing? Let me just read what I say here. This is what I've seen to work, at least in the last years. So why most brands fail, as I write over here in front of you, is because their avatar customer they are targeting is very broad, but mostly just very unclear. If that is the case, everything else follows in terms of problems, and I'm going to explain why in just a second, so stick around until the video, right? Now, you might be thinking, if it's broad, then I can target more people and scale further. Not exactly. Let me explain. This is what you look like, right? And I've shown this diagram in other videos too, but this is what you look like if you go after a super broad and unclear saturated red ocean market. I like to call it red ocean because a red ocean it's somewhat in the marketing world, in case you're not aware, is an ocean is a market that is red because it's saturated, it's bloody, it's full of people, it's everybody fighting over the bid, right? And so this is an example of an avatar that is just not clear. Men and women with any back related pains. I'm not saying that this cannot get you some ads to scale. Once again, you can do it. You can copy, paste, rip, whatever, but you're not really having a good understanding of what people are maybe mostly resonating with. Who is your ideal customer? There's a lot of there aren't a lot of benefits. There's more cons than pros if you want to scale. And so this is basically what you look like. There's 70 million other entrepreneurs that look and feel just like you, and there's no innovation in your sales process. Not only your product, also your sales process. And so this is typically when you see maybe higher CPMs, it really depends on the industry, but typically higher CPMs, lower cost per, lower click-through rates because your ads are maybe not, there's no leverage over your marketing, so your ads maybe are not the best. They're just being copied and pasted. And by the way, if you copy and paste ripped ads from Facebook, Facebook knows. I mean, they're not stupid, so they're probably gonna penalize you. It's hard to scale. Your cost per acquisition is higher, so on and so forth. Now, this is how 8-figure brands on the other side approach it within a saturated and competitive marketplace. Okay, they have a crystal clear idea of the avatar customers they are targeting. It's not broad. It's the opposite. It's targeted, but still with a very, very strong and big addressable market. Let me explain an example of this. This is an example, so bear with me, right? An example is an avatar that is 40-year-old Sally, who is a nurse, right, and works 12-hour shifts and has chronic back pain. She needs a solution right now to show up to work healthy and be there for her kids when she is back home. You see how this is a much more kind of like precise avatar compared to any man and woman with any back-related problems. You see how that is a lot more specific, right? And so once you start getting into a more specific avatar, not only your marketing message can be more clear and can resonate more, but you also compete with less people, right? And so instead of going after a $50 billion market, you maybe have to go after, a $2, $3, $4 billion market, which is still big, right? And also you are competing with maybe 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 competitors instead of, literally hundreds of brands trying to copy and paste the top dog in the space. Now, what do I say here? What if you want to scale further and target more avatars? Well, in that case, you can scale it horizontally. So you can target back pain, neck pain, men, women, you get the point. University students feeling back pain because they're starting, I don't know, athletes, you get the point, right? It's more. You just have to make sure, though, that if you're going after pregnant moms, just as a sample, what you probably want to do is go and say how many pregnant moms are there, let's just say in the US, each year in the US market, right? And so if you go after that, it's 5 million, right? 5.3 million isn't a big, very scalable market, maybe, but if we consider that maybe this problem is something like we're solving a problem that moms or recent moms face. So for example, moms that just got pregnant or just got a baby, or also moms that were pregnant last year or 2 years ago, right? Because once you're getting a baby, you have problems with you deal with chronic problems like back pain, for example. So we can consider that it's 15 million, the addressable market. So 50 million times $100 product, right? Times $100. What's the market? It's 1.5 billion. So even if you get 1% of that, you have a $15 million per year brand just with that avatar alone. Not even to mention you can scale. So I'm not saying that you always have to make this like so nitty and gritty into like a smaller niche, but it's easier to crack the code and get the ball rolling, especially when you can like fully personalize it. So I would say something in the middle, not too broad, but still specific enough, not too specific, but still broad enough to actually be able to scale. Now let's do like a quick example, so we can kind of understand what I'm talking about. An example of a good avatar is a 40-year-old man dealing with back pain due to long hours working his 9 to 5. So we're dealing with men, this category of people, men, dealing with a specific problem in their back pain. Could be neck pain, could be whatever. And they're also working in 9 to 5. In many cases, we like to call out these avatars within our ad process, right? Not only on the ad level, but also in the sales and the advertorial, in the sales page and the product page. So there's congruency throughout from A to Z, as I say here, throughout the entire sales process. Now, honestly, let me ask you a question. Do you believe that the above sales process, this one, will work better or worse compared to something like this, targeting people dealing with any people dealing with any back pain? Could be neck pain, lower back pain, whatever. Where there's basically an ad, a product page, and that's it, or something like that. Of course, this is going to resonate more deeply because if I call out the person, I'm going to show you an ad in just a second, actually. The ad is going to resonate on a deeper level. I'm going to show you an example of how this brand is actually really able. First of all, let me take a look at how many ads they have just to verify this is a good company to funnel hack. But I believe they have a lot of active ads. They have 700 active ads, which means they know exactly what they're doing. But this is an example of calling out the avatar clearly.
This is the fastest way to fix neck pain at home. If you've got neck pain, stiffness, or numbness in your arms, I want to tell you about someone I worked with recently. His name's Mark, early 50s, works from home, spends long hours at his desk. For months, he'd been...
You see how it called out the avatar? I worked with a patient called Mark, 50s, works long hours on his desk, and he's dealing with neck pain on the left side. Same thing with this ad over here.
Here's why. One side of your neck is tighter than the other. If you've noticed that imbalance, stiffness on one side, tension pulling more on one shoulder, you're not alone.
So first of all, very specific issue. Still very, very big TAM, but very specific issue, right?
To tell you about someone I worked with recently. Her name's Laura. Early 50s, works from home, spends long hours at her desk.
Same exact avatar, right? But for women, right? And guess what? When I click on this ad, let's see where it brings us. This is maybe a retargeting ad. I'm not sure, but I saw that they are sending them to an advertorial where it's like 5 reasons your neck pain never goes away. And in this case, where it's like published by a woman, and then there's also like a woman over here, and you get the point. So it's like optimized maybe for women, and then there's another one over here, which is also for women, right? You get the point. So you see how everything is really congruent, which is why it's also working. So honestly, which one would you think it would work? Obviously, this one would work better, but let's talk about the major benefits overall. If you go after super broad, you lower your cost per your CTR on your ads because you're going after how do you say it? Somebody that is not clear in your mind of who you want to target, the persona. So the messaging, that's the word that I was missing. The messaging is very, very broad, and so the CTR and the relevance of your ad is lower. So you have lower CTRs, lower resonation, less relevant for everyone, lower conversion rate, higher cost per acquisition. Very hard to scale, right? And when I say scale, I mean to like $80,000, $100,000 days plus. That's what I mean scale, okay? Then on the other side, let me just stop my notifications 1 second. On the other side, hyper-specific avatar, but still big enough to scale, right? Never forget that. This has a higher CTR, as you notice back over here. These ads are very kind of like focused on the customer. They're calling out the customer. This is higher CTR ads, high resonation, as sales process is specific to the avatar customer, very high conversion rate, lower cost per acquisition, stronger business economics, okay, which is scalable. Now, let me talk about our approach, the one that we use that helps us with finding and scaling avatars. Okay, I do want to say one very quick thing. This is really important. Bear with me. Part of our strategy when we onboard clients is to spend 80% of our time optimizing the avatar, finding maybe angles that we know work, and doing better creatives, right? Going on TikTok, for example, and researching what's going viral in the neck pain industry, to being able to replicate it, create a winning ad, get a top spender. That's where 80% of our time goes. The other 20%, which fuels the 80% eventually, but the other 20% where we spend our time is literally understanding avatar customers, new ones, okay? And so that's where we spend our time, and that's where all of this maybe comes more into play, because here I talk about like testing different avatars. But why do we only spend 20% of our time? Because this is risky. Okay, it's risky. You need to understand this. I want to be transparent about this. It's risky because these are riskier tests. They're backed by less data. You've never tested it before. Maybe you don't know if other people are like, you can't find another competitor testing it. It's like riskier. But this is the let's just say the foundation of whether you're talking about 80% or 20%, this is the foundation that we like to use. And the number one priority starts with building the avatar customer. We want to be crystal clear on who this person is. If we are not crystal clear and we don't create this persona, every single ad will kind of be very different, and it will resonate and attract different types of people. So the first thing that we want to do is leverage TikTok. One thing that I like to do a lot is actually TikTok is amazing. I know that Amazon Reddit is also amazing, but the reason I like TikTok is because it's kind of a combination between Reddit and reviews and ads and Amazon. It's kind of like it kills two birds with one stone. So this is an example. What I like to do is basically basically look for comments. This has 53,000 comments. I want to read through these comments. I want to understand what the avatar is saying. I want to come up with new angles. I want to learn and understand what the avatar is talking about, what they like, what they dislike. This is very basic, but it's really, really important. And so this is the first thing we do. Then we try to funnel, distribute and decide what avatars we could potentially target as new ones, right? And then we understand their language discovery. So we do this across, we do this across multiple avatars. So each avatar that we try to find and identify, we want to study what their language discovery, their situational context, their aspiration, their emotional motivations, their surface needs, how do they think, what they need to hear. Basically, try to understand everything there is to know about this avatar, okay? And so once we do that, we can then create angles, right, for each avatar, and then we can do a test that looks something like this. This is the part of the 20% bracket. If we spent all of our resources into testing completely new angles and avatars, we would probably burn the majority of the budget, because even the best of the marketers, right, it would be hard to crack because it's a risky test. That's why 20%. Okay, so bear with me here. So this is what the ad account would look like. For example, we would test the structure, I should say. We would test a new avatar with like 3 to 4 angles each. I just have one here for the sake of the example, and then redirect them to the best general landing page. Okay, it's general because we don't need to personalize a funnel yet. We want to prove that the avatar and the angle is working first. Once we find the avatar 3 and angle 1 is working, then we can think of personalizing the landing page until eventually everything, the entire funnel from start right to finish, is fully personalized. Okay, so this is the video. This is what I wanted to talk about. But one of the most important things that you need to understand is kind of this approach that you don't need to go after this kind of super saturated market in a very non-unique marketing strategy. You want to go after a more kind of like centered and less saturated marketplace with a unique value proposition that differentiates your product. Okay, you can also go after a saturated market, but you're gonna have to really be smart in the way that you present your product. Really smart, very unique, or you just have a very, very unique product. Okay, let's just say tomorrow I come up with like the version of the iPhone that is 20 times better. It has so many more features. Then of course I can tap into that market and then maybe even really get profitable from day one because it's such a unique product. So that's why like product development is actually very interesting. I have some clients or people that I just never ended up working with, but their approach was testing the marketing first with a very unique product. So they do a bunch of market research, right? They do all of this discovery. They try to find problems. They try to build custom solutions, custom formulations, custom products. They prove it with marketing with like a pre-order sale. They prove it's profitable from day on. Then they use that cash flow to formulate the product, and then that's how they do it. So it's of course riskier, a bit more of a longer process, but it's definitely a process I also resonate with. Anyways, that's a conversation for another video. That is it for this video. If you are a brand doing at least $100,000 a month and you want to explore the opportunity of working with us and growing with us as growth partners, then you know what to do. Click the first link in the description. You can book in a call. It's going to be with me or one of my team members, and together we can dive deeper into analyzing and breaking down why you can't scale, or what are the opportunities, and if we can do this together. Okay, that's it for this video. See you in the call, and definitely see you in the next video, hopefully. Bye.